In ancient Japan, there lived a young, powerful warrior named Kenji. He was a master of the sword, but a slave to his own anger. A single bad comment or insult from anyone would make him lose his mind. If a stranger gave him a disrespectful look, Kenji would instantly draw his sword. His explosive emotions were destroying his life, his friendships, and his peace. He felt like a burning fire that was destroying everything around it, including himself. One night, after ruining a great relationship over a small insult, Kenji wept in bitter silence. He realized that despite his sharp sword, he was a prisoner of other people's words. Determined to change, he traveled deep into the high mountains to find an old legendary Zen Master. The path up the mountain was freezing, brutal, and physically exhausting. Many times, his anger and ego tempted him to quit and go back. But his desire for inner peace pushed him forward until he reached the silent mountain temple. Inside, a frail old master sat in a state of absolute, unbreakable silence. Kenji bowed and said, "Master, teach me how to control my emotions. I want to win every situation." The master looked at his heavy sword, smiled gently, and nodded. He gave Kenji a fragile paper fan and said, "Stand outside, defend yourself without breaking this paper." Kenji stood outside, confused. Suddenly, the master hired local boys to shout the worst insults at him. They called him a coward, a fake warrior, and laughed at his face. Hearing the harsh words, Kenji's anger exploded. His hands shook with rage, and the fragile paper fan ripped into pieces. "You failed," the master said. "Your anger broke your shield." For a whole week, Kenji tried again and again, but his ego always broke the paper. One morning, the master took him to a high cliff facing a violent, raging ocean. The master said, "Look at the ocean. It screams, it roars, and it smashes against the cliff with absolute fury." But does the cliff scream back? Does the cliff get angry? No, it remains solid and silent. A sudden wave of wisdom hit Kenji's mind. The cliff wins because it refuses to react. The next day, Kenji stood in the courtyard again. The crowd gathered and shouted even worse insults. But this time, Kenji became the cliff. He heard the insults, but let them crash outside his heart. His hand stayed perfectly steady. The crowd grew tired and fell silent. The paper fan remained unbroken. The Zen Master smiled beautifully and bowed to the warrior. "Your sword can cut a body," the master whispered, "but your silence can cut an enemy's ego." True power is not the ability to attack. True power is the ability to stay unbothered. Kenji returned to his city, not just as a swordsman, but as a silent master of his mind. Months later, an old enemy stopped him in public, spitting insults to force him into a fight. The crowd gathered, waiting for blood. But Kenji didn't get angry. He didn't draw his sword. He simply looked into his enemy's eyes with absolute calm, smiled softly, and walked away. His silence was so heavy that it made the enemy feel completely powerless and defeated. Kenji had won the battle without even touching his sword. He had won the situation through inner control. Remember, anyone who can anger you becomes your master. If you react, you lose. Become the cliff, master your mindset, protect your inner peace, and you will win every single situation in life.